Who won the debate? Were there any scientific polls? In the end, there was only really one good scientific poll. There were two attempted. CNN tried to do a scientific poll. I don't know, they really tried. They only talked to registered voters, and 6 in 10 of their voter sample skewed Democratic, favored Biden coming in. Only 4 in 10 favored Trump. David Chalian, their political analyst, even said, hey, look, caution, our poll skews Democratic. So we throw that one out. That was not a legitimate poll. Basically, their results mirrored who the people favored coming in anyway. So fortunately, CBS and YouGov did do a scientific poll. They had an excellent sample. It was drawn from 7,000 registered voters. They identified 4,000 likely voters, and they took out of that 4,000 likely voters a pool of 1,200 or so likely voters, and they did a poll with those people. And that's what we have the results of. So let's take a look at that now. The one criticism I would have for the YouGov poll is that their sample had too many Democrats. In the end, their weighted sample had 39% Democrats, as you can see here on the screen, and only 33% Republicans. Now, in the last 9 elections, we've only seen a sample that high for Democrats that actually came to fruition twice. And both of those times were for Barack Obama. I don't think the Democrats are going to get anywhere near D+6 this time. Why? Well, the coronavirus is a problem. It's going to reduce some turnout. Trump is on the other side driving his turnout like crazy. Okay, Trump's going to drive his turnout big. Now, the flip side of that is you say, well, he's going to drive negative turnout. That's also true. He's also going to drive negative turnout. But Biden is not going to pull people out. People aren't excited about Biden. He can't even get rallies. That's not hyperbole. It really is a problem for Biden. He can't drive people to come out and see him. And look, that's going to have an impact on turnout. So in the end, when it's all, yes, Trump's going to drive negative turnout, but he's going to drive his own. Look, in the end, it's all going to wash out, and most likely we're going to see what we usually see, which is about a Democrat +3, maybe even D+2, D+1. So this sample is too high, D+6. We're going to adjust that to what happened, our turnout from last cycle, which was a Democrat +3, 36% Democrat and 33% Republican. And here we see how it impacts the poll. Instead of Biden having a 7-point lead, which he had under the original sample, his lead drops to only 3.3% with that voter sample. So that is a statistical tie, 3 percentage points. It's within the margin of error, well within the margin of error. So based on that, you say, the debate based on the polls was a tie. Well, it gets even a little closer than that. A lot of likely voter models are now putting Democrat and Republican turnout about even, maybe Democrat +1. So let's take a look at that. If we adjust it from D+6 to D+1, the result for the poll of who won the debate shifts to within 2 percentage points, 46.7 to 44.9. So what can we conclude from this? We can conclude that YouGov had too many Democrats in its weighted sample. That's a fair assumption, considering it's only happened twice in the last 27 years. Both times were Obama, and Obama got everybody coming out from the woodwork. Biden's not going to be able to repeat that. Not with the coronavirus, not with a whole host of other problems. They can't knock doors. Republicans are out registering Democrats, or at least coming very close to it, and that's usually not even close. The Democrats usually register people in huge numbers. They're not doing it this time. So I don't think D+6 is reasonable. I think D+3 is reasonable. I even think D+1 is reasonable, or even maybe even. George W. Bush did achieve an even turnout one time in 2004. So we see the debate, according to the scientific poll, is a draw. I think that's a fair assumption. I hope you agree with me based on what I've shown you. Ultimately, though, what determines who wins this debate, who won this debate, is what are we talking about in a week? What issues did this debate bring up that we're going to be talking about? Now, I'm not going to get into all that because that is a long conversation, but there were big issues talked about. The big issues were coronavirus, they were law and order, they were the records of the respective candidates, they were the economy and healthcare. They talked about all these issues. They went back and forth. There were some zingers. I think you have to just acknowledge that Trump had more attacks, and he did. He had a lot more attacks than Biden. Biden was somewhat off balance because of the way Trump came at him. He came very aggressive. And look, Trump's getting dinged for that in the press. He was very rude. Biden, however, came back and was also, quote, rude. He used the word, he called the president a clown. He called him a racist. So Biden potentially could have stayed above the fray, but he didn't. He got sucked into it. So that negates his advantage somewhat, at least, on Trump being rude. As you can see, you get sucked into the back and forth, the substance of the debate, and goes on forever. Bottom line, we'll see in a week where this was. As of right now, this was a draw according to the scientific poll that we saw. Please subscribe to my YouTube channel. This is a brand new channel. I'm going to do videos like this, analyzing the polls frequently. Hit the bell, you know the deal. We'll see you next time.